Japanese government officials calls for government to speak out against what they perceive a game's insult towards the dignity of their nation and its traditions. This is Lavistro, the Dragon of Cyberspace and Dragon Lord of Goonie, coming to you with all news, tips, and tricks within the gaming spectrum. If you're new here and like my work, please consider hitting the like, subscribe, and notification bell. And don't forget to share this video to push us out to the algorithm. Okay, so those of you that have been following gaming news, especially my videos or other videos, probably aware of Ubisoft's rather delicate handling of Japanese culture and Japanese governments and people as well's reaction to said handling and treatment. Those who have played Assassin's Creed knows that it is a historical fiction game that tries to do its best to tell a story within a what I'll say, quote unquote, historically accurate world. Um, it has gone back and forth. It has been praised by uh, some historians for its historical accuracy. Some have pointed out it's not historically accurate. Regardless the case may be, it seems like Assassin's Creed Shadows does not want to be like the rest of the Assassin's Creed IP and just wants to be whatever it fucking wants to be. And buckles down on holding on to a mythical samurai that they claim to be a real samurai. The Japanese people have come out and said no. And it just seems to get worse and worse as time goes because because Ubisoft's trying to say there's a black samurai. Jeffrey says, no, there's not. And then next thing you know, you got this black samurai running around, acting not like a samurai, killing pregnant ladies and breaking shrines. That it's just causing an insult to Japanese people. That if this was an actual character doing the actual things he's done, let's be honest here, this would be grounds for for a war between two countries. Blah 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 blah. So let's just put it at that, in my opinion. So to elaborate, according to Bounding Comics, in the latest escalation of Japan's ongoing cultural battle with Ubisoft, the local politician has called on the country's national legislator to firmly and directly speak out against the fact that Assassin's Creed Shadows will players to physically thrash an in-game recreation of a prominent real-world Shinto shrine, particularly as he believes this instant of player freedom insults the dignity of our nation and its traditions. Now, I'm going to say here is that the Assassin's Creed franchise does lead you to believe it's historically accurate. It does try to, it is a historical fiction, and it tries to tell you a story within a historical world as a character fighting a secret war that's been going on for ages between the assassins and the Templars as history progresses. This being said, there are cases of player freedom, things that happen without that wouldn't really happen in reality, but a lot of care was taken to, in most cases, a lot of care was given to religious objects, religious traditions, trying to be neutral while trying to tell a story. Others try to point out that there are cases where religious objects and traditions were trashed by Assassin's Creed franchise. But I do also want to point out that when creating this game, apparently the Shinto shrine said that they did not receive permission and recreation of that shrine, which I guess I don't know if it's a Japanese law thing, whatever. But when you're doing something like that, I think it's best to consider all aspects, especially if you have a legal department that's going after YouTubers or the criminal actions of another YouTuber. But that will be another video. Continuing on, as previously reported, the religious site in question is the Itai Chiaozo Jinja Shrine, otherwise known as the Harima no Kuni Soja. Located in Japan's Hyogo Prefecture, the shrine is one of the area's most important Shinto-related sites, having been established in 564 as the home of the local gods of matchmaking, nation building, and planting trees, achieving victory and happiness, before later becoming to enshrine all of the region's 174 deities in 1811. So that's the Shinto shrine right there. I gotta admit, I like tradition. I think this. I like that. It's about how it currently stands today. As first discovered by attendees of a January preview event, not only can players visit the shrine, but thanks to the environmental destruction features of Shadow's engine, they can also voluntarily choose to tear everything and everyone within it to absolute pieces. To this end, its potential for destruction soon drew the ire of its current caretakers, who, when subsequently asked about the situation by Japanese news outlet Sankei Shimbun, declared, "We will take appropriate action." However, they did not provide any specific details as to what actions may entail. I will also say that we covered this as well in a separate video, uh, and I will try to put a reference to the video in the description or up here. Furthermore, press as to whether or not there has been attempts by Ubisoft to contact them regarding their use of the Shark's image. They explained, no, if there had been, we would have refused. As a result of Sankei Shimbun article, the situation surrounding the Isuzu Jinja Shrine eventually came to the attention of Hyogo Prefectural Assembly member Takeshi Nagashi. I hope I said his name right. Finding himself unhappy with the site's depiction in shadows, Nagase took to his personal YouTube channel on February 24th and publicly put his own Liberal Democratic Party, whose rank currently hold majority control of both chambers of the country's main legislative body, the National Diet, to speak out against the cultural disrespect being offered by Ubisoft. Today, I would like to talk about the hearts of us Japanese people are being trampled upon by Yanagasi as a machine translated with assistance from both DeepL and ChatGPT. Have you heard of the game Assassin's Creed Shadows, created by the French game company Ubisoft? This game unfolds its story using real Japanese shrines and temples as its settings. The shrines and Buddhist temples depicted in the game's background are all faithfully recreated in CG, accurately reflecting their current appearance. The game also beautifully portrays seasonal changes and other details of great skill. However, the problem lies in the storyline. I guess that's this video right there. We'll click that real quick.
をします。そして、実在する死者仏
Yeah.
閣の中で特に今
Well,
回
that's the video that they're reporting on. The protagonist of this game behaves in an extremely violent and outrageous manner, attacking passing monks with a sword and shooting arrows at people for no reason. Recap the politician. The biggest issue in this game's fiction is that Harima no Kunu Shoja Shrine in Hijimi City. In the game, the shrine's main hall serves as a key location for the protagonist's actions. However, the protagonist is shown barging in with shoes on, decapitating people, and committing unspeakable atrocities, including destroying sacred mirrors and causing complete havoc. To us, the scenes are unthinkable. Nagasi then declared, "Can we really excuse this just because it's a game? Can we dismiss it as entertainment? Right that are not asserted will be lost. If something is offensive and unacceptable, we must clearly express our objections." And I do agree with this. Japan is actively engaging with many foreign visitors, working with increased inbound tourism, but not everything about internationalization is positive. We must clearly state what is unacceptable. Government, local politicians like us, and most importantly, our National Diet members must raise their voices on this issue. As the Liberal Democratic Party, LDP, a conservative ruling party, we bear a responsibility to uphold the dignity of our nation and its traditions. From there, the Hyogo-based politician's video cuts to a discussion between himself and one of the caretakers associated with the shrine, a man identified to the best of Banning into Comics limited Japanese capability as Mr. Nishimoto regarding the Shadows controversy. Finally, talking for his overall read of the situation, Mr. Nishimoto asserted, "Well, this shrine is a place that represents Japanese culture. Seeing such images being spread around is first and foremost deeply regrettable. There are people who come to pray here every day. If those people saw such things, it would surely disturb and sadden them. When I think about it, it's truly heartbreaking." I completely understand your frustration, replied Nagasi. We must convey this issue to the government and ensure that people around the world understand our concerns. This shrine has been a beloved place for generations. We must ensure that its legacy is not tarnished by such depictions. When people must represent Japan's culture out of curiosity or ignorance, we must stand up and firmly reject it. Agreeing with his guest, Ishimoto affirmed, "Exactly, this isn't about the shrine itself. For us Japanese people, shrines are hold a profound cultural and spiritual significance. Depicting them in a disrespectful manner commits acts of destruction, trampling sacred grounds with shoes, violating sacred spaces. This is something we cannot tolerate." Next, the politician can be seen posing the same question Masayosua Wada, head of priest of the nearby Yoruzuru shrine, and headed the Hyogo Prefect Shinto political league. Fundamentally, I believe the Western societies, particularly Europeans, lack respect for other religions. Deep down, they still hold subtle prejudice against non-Western cultures. This lack of respect for our spiritual tradition is now showing itself openly. Even if they claim it wasn't intentional, the fact remains they have depicted such acts of destruction. That alone is unacceptable. I completely agree, concludes Nagase, as members of the I can't speak, Liberal Democratic Party, both in Hyogo Prefecture and at national level. We must clearly state that such things are unacceptable. This is not about gaming, it's about perfecting our cultural heritage. As of writing, Nagase has yet to offer any specific details about just how he plans to raise the issue of Sasuke Shadow's treatment of the shrine and to the national diet, nor will he do so before or after the game hit shows March 20th. Now, I'm going to point out that some people say that because I agree, I'm being hypocritical, or because most of us agree what's being depicted here is hypocritical. I'm going to argue this: if they made Assassin's Creed Shadows and they had Yasuke as a monk, right? And he goes through, even let's say he was a Templar, a Knights Templar, right? He was Knights Templar. Let's just say that, right? And he goes into a church and starts destroying the relics of the pieces of the true cross, um, valuable artwork, destroys the stained glass windows, chopping off the heads of priests, all this other stuff, right? That doing horrible things that makes Christians to offend Christians, right? Would we be outraged, right? Or would we say it's just a game, you know, don't buy it? Or would we say the same to say Islam, Judaism? There's a difference between having either feature these and doing a lack of respect. Here, Assassin's Creed, as I stated, has a history of trying to make historical fiction games where they, for the most part, try to respect certain beliefs, certain locations, all that stuff, and try to give the player a bit of an education as like they can read the codex, all this other stuff, while also telling their story. For example, if you try to hurt an innocent, it'll say stuff like Altair never harmed civilians or Ezio never harmed civilians. And if you continue to do that, you get desynchronized. If you try to, let's say, assassinate Leonardo da Vinci, it's game over because Leonardo da Vinci wasn't assassinated, or at that time period. It tries to stay true to historical timelines and stuff to the best of its ability. It does take certain liberties, of course. Not everything to be historically accurate. Here, it seems they wanted to use Ubisoft wanted to use DIE and woke initiatives to spin a narrative, sort of like the 1603, the claims of 1603 being the actual history and origins of America. They're trying to claim that this also is historically true, that Yasuke is real. When most characters in the Assassin's Creed franchise that were the main protagonists were not real characters, they were not real people. They were people that met real people. Like, for example, King George Washington, Blackbeard, trying to think of some other members, Borgia member, Leonardo da Vinci, certain actual historical characters, right? And here we have Yasuke, and Yasuke is supposed to be the samurai because they're saying, oh, technically this guy was a samurai during this time period because we have records that Nobunaga was fascinated by the guy. When in reality, history says he cleaned his swords. He didn't come as a slave. He was part of a Jesuit missionary group, and all of a sudden we don't know he just disappeared mysteriously in history. He's like only mentioned once in Japan, and then just gone. So that being said, you know, it just keeps getting worse. They don't like he's not being an actual samurai. He he can go through brick walls. He can do these things. You have a ninja who's not, uh, who historically, according to historical, from what I understand, there was no such thing as an actual female ninja. The Konichi were basically females employed by ninjas to be their eyes and ears to help them get into tight situations, but never were trained to be ninjas themselves. There's a lot of historical inaccuracy. Now it's different from having, say, Ninja Gaiden or these other places where you could have those things, right? You could have those things. But it's another when you're just doing this for shock value because you want to do it your way. Like if there was no Assassin's Creed game and this was the very first Assassin's Creed game, I'd be like, yeah, this is not cool. But when you have a history of respecting people's cultures, when you make your games and all of a sudden you're going to do this, I think Japan's in the right here. I think if Assassin's Creed 3 was made to be disrespectful of American Revolution and the struggles that founding fathers went through, I'd be saying the same thing. Right? I think same could be said for the Renaissance age as well. I do want to point out here that I find it interesting. They said that they're made while they say Western cultures, they specifically point out European cultures as being the main disrespect towards I do want to point out here you go what Swada said. He's a head priest, right? Of a nearby shrine. He goes, I believe that Western societies, particularly Europeans, lack respect for other religions. And he doesn't just mean his religion, he's talking about other religions regardless. And well, I think this is true because number one, you gotta understand that to be fair, think critically here, Europeans did not originally have the freedom of religion, right? That we have today. Like you can be atheist, you can be Buddhist, you can be Shinto, you can be Christian, whatever. The right to religious beliefs started in America. Yeah, we know. Like there are certain examples, like oh, you have the right to be a Protestant, you have a right to be a Catholic, right? But the right to freedom of religion that we know today, the actual right, from what I understand, I could be wrong about this. From what I understand, right, not that we have today that people like to credit on came from America, and other countries started, encompassing that. It's like, oh, this how this works is how that works, right? And this is why European values and American values are two different things. While Americans have inherited the progression and accumulation of human rights and uh, history of Western culture, we've expanded on that within our own culture to a certain extent. I do find it's interesting they particularly point out Europeans as having a lack of respect for different religions, a lack of respect for spiritual traditions, and just being blatantly open about it. Well, what do you think, viewer? Put your thoughts in the comments below. As always, happy gaming.
Worlds clash in endless collision. Gaming news with a fierce precision. With a spark so wild it breaks the norm. In the tempest's eye, a cyberstorm. Reclaim gaming and Dragon Cast. Fire breathing wine, screaming loud. Lavistro's here to shake the crowd.